So what's happening with Hashimoto's? Let's talk about the thyroid and how it works and how Hashimoto's comes into play. So first of all, we have a pituitary gland right up here, and your pituitary talks to the thyroid and with thyroid stimulating hormone to stimulate the thyroid so that it will produce T4. Now T4 gets converted into T3, which is the active form of that hormone. Okay, so now if you're looking at your labs and you see that your TSH is high, we have to think about the TSH kind of like a volume knob. So if the TSH is high, the pituitary is having to yell at the thyroid to get it to produce T4. Okay. So if your TSH is low, then it can be very quiet and it's like talking to your thyroid, and your thyroid is just working and it's fine. So this is why your doctors will just watch for TSH. So if the TSH goes high, it means, oh gosh, this messaging isn't going well. This gland, maybe it's not producing that well. And maybe it's just not quite releasing enough T4. And that's starting this loop over and over. Okay. So that's happening. Now, if your doctor is only running TSH, then it would be really hard for you to find out if you have Hashimoto's. So the specific labs for Hashimoto's we're looking for antibodies toward this thyroid. Okay. So thyroglobulin antibodies is one. The second one is thyroid peroxidase antibodies. Now, if I have somebody who has thyroglobulin antibodies that's positive, it means that the immune system has said, hey, I'm going to attack this gland. It doesn't mean that it's actively under attack. It means that it has the intention to attack. It's decided that this gland is a problem or foreign, or it's going to attack it. That's the plan. So that's thyroglobulin antibodies. Now, thyroid peroxidase antibodies is really different. That tells me that we're seeing in the bloodstream a lot of peroxidase antibodies that are coming out in the bloodstream, and it means there's destruction of the thyroid gland happening. Now, some people can have the highest numbers, like over 9,000, and normal is under 9. So if you're over 9,000, there's very strong activity and you're getting a lot of destruction of your thyroid gland. Now, peroxidase is kind of like when we were kids and you would put hydrogen peroxide maybe on a cut and it would bubble up a little bit in sort of like a bubbly white, like lucency, and it was kind of bubbly. That's what's happening here. There's this bubbly that's because it's getting destroyed. Okay, so that's what they're picking up on the bloodstream. So this is an immune system problem where the immune system has wrong targeted this thyroid gland for attack. And then it becomes a thyroid problem. So sometimes your doctor will run your labs and you'll say, let's say the TSH looks fine, but they didn't run T4. How much is coming out? And how well do you convert T4 to T3? Let's talk about that. So T4, there's 4 T's, and your body has to take away a T and make it 3 T's. So T3 is the active form, okay? So the other things we want to run in the labs is we want to run T4 and T3, but the way that we want to run it is free T4 and free T3. So when hormones are released, they are bound. They're bound. Hormones are all bound. And then when they are unbound, they become free. When this is free, this is something that can be active and available. So what I like to run on lab work on patients is I like to run T4 free and I like to run T3 free. And that tells me how much free hormone is available. Now, if you're really inflamed, if you have pre-diabetes, if you have had an infection, if you are just generally like kind of an inflamed, maybe overweight, unhealthy person that's really struggling with their health, sometimes that can cause the thyroid to be more bound. So you can have T4, but it's bound and it's not usable. So it acts like hypothyroidism, but it's actually not. But is it? It's kind of this weird thing to diagnose. So I like to look at TSH, free T4, free T3, thyroglobulin antibodies, thyroid peroxidase antibodies. Now, you can also run another thing on the lab that's called reverse T3. So sometimes if there's inflammation happening in the system or high blood sugar or something like that, then the T3 can get bound up in reverse T3. So if you can look at that number and it can tell you this was available to you, but now it's bound, so it's not available. So it's just kind of an interesting piece of information. I don't always run it, but it's something that you can always run. So these are the things you want to do to try to figure out what is happening and how have I diagnosed. You can ask your doctor for these specific labs, and then we can understand what it is that we're looking at. Okay, so there's another another video that we're going to be going over that's just going to be what all labs should I run in general, but these are the thyroid labs and this is how the thyroid works. So what we want to do now is if you have Hashimoto's, we need to start thinking about what is triggering the immune system to actually start this attack in the first place. Why did it start the attack? And that's going to be my next video. Why did we get triggered with Hashimoto's in the first place?